Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Welcome, everybody. I am calling this regular meeting of the Willits City Council to order on September 8th at 6:30. And we will now turn it over to Kathy for the pledge to the flag and a roll call.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Council members Gonzalez?
Present.
Connie?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mayor Strong?
Yes, here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our first item after that is public communications, and we welcome comments from the public. This is for items that are not on our posted agenda. If you have any comments that are within the city's jurisdiction that you'd like to bring to our attention, this is your chance to do that. If it's an agenda item, that'll happen later. And we generally limit that to 3 minutes. And I should just also mention that we are meeting telephonically, which is pursuant to the state orders in order to not expose each other to COVID. So for now, we are continuing to meet by telecommunications. So public communications, who would like to address? Yes, go ahead. I see your hand.
Okay. Good evening, Council, City staff, and community members. Tina Tyler O'Shea with Blue Zones Project, Mendocino County. I believe some of you are familiar, maybe all of you, with Blue Zones. It's based on the research of the world's longest lived communities by Dan Buettner from a National Geographic study, designed to make healthy choices easier through permanent changes in environment, policy, and social networks. So the goal is to lower healthcare costs, improve productivity, and boost national recognition as a great place to live, work, and play. And I think some of you participated in the Blue Zones Project site assessment back in May, and you may be wondering what is going on locally. Well, I was hired to lead the local team of 5. And we're currently rolling out the foundation and planning phase of the project, and you and or your staff may receive invitations to participate in interviews with our team to gain a greater understanding of our local conditions and how we can work together. Also, we're building our committees, and I would love it if you were to select a member of your council and or staff to participate. I've had a very strong working relationship with the city of Willits in my years of working in public health, and I hope that partnership will continue in this new role. I'm very, very excited to be a part of this project, sponsored by Adventist Health and brought to our local community for our local community. And if you would like more information, do we have a chat that I can put my contact information in?
I don't believe that we have that in this particular forum that we have, but you could certainly send anything to our city clerk, Kathy Moorhead, and she would get those to us by email.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay. And if we do want to actually officially appoint somebody, that would have to be an agendized item, I guess, unless somebody wants to just volunteer. Okay. Anybody else wish to address the City Council under public communications? I'm not hearing or seeing anybody raising their hand or speaking out. So we are going to go to our next item, which is public matters. And what we have here is a presentation, I'm just going to, by the Mendocino County Tobacco Prevention Coalition regarding a proposal to adopt an ordinance that would govern tobacco retail licenses. And I see Karen Osland is listed as wanting to make this presentation, and anybody else that came with her. So Karen, why don't you take it over?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Strong and council members. My name is Karen Osland, and I'm Vice Chair of the County of Mendocino Tobacco Coalition. We're a group of community volunteers committed to keeping as many of our kids as possible free of nicotine and safe from the harms of tobacco use. With me here tonight are Coalition Chair Larry Olson, Tina Tyler O'Shea, who's also a Willits resident and Executive Director of Blue Zones, Jay McCovery of Tobacco Free North Coast, and Joanne Saccato of North Cal for Health, and probably some others. I'm a 30-year resident of Willits. I raised my 2 sons here, and earlier in my life, I served a stint on the Willits City Council. I'm also the Executive Director of the Cancer Resource Centers of Mendocino County. It's an honor and a privilege to assist those with cancer, but as someone who sees the effects of cancer on people's lives every day, I will do whatever I can to help today's youth avoid cancer tomorrow. The city's current tobacco retail licensing ordinance was adopted in 2001, back when I was a council member, before vaping was invented. The current ordinance defines a tobacco product as any substance containing tobacco leaf, yet today's nicotine products of choice among our youth contain no tobacco leaf at all, but a liquefied version of nicotine concentrated to bring about swift addiction. According to the California Healthy Kids Survey, 21% of Willits 9th graders have tried vaping, compared to just 1% of Willits 9th graders who have smoked an old-fashioned combustible cigarette. The addictive and poisonous nature of nicotine to the adolescent brain development is well documented, and good facts about this can be found in the Surgeon General's report on e-cigarette use among youth and young adults. Adolescence is a critical period for brain development. Young brains build synapses more quickly than adult brains. New habits and addictions take hold faster and are harder to break. Sadly, many kids who try vaping do not understand that it is a nicotine delivery system. Some think it's just water vapor and flavors. They don't see it as harmful. Big tobacco companies must addict the young in order to ensure the necessary consumers for their products in the decades to come. If you think about your own life experience, have you ever known anyone who started smoking or vaping much after their teens or 20s? We, the adults in charge, can interrupt this cycle and prevent more kids from becoming addicted. Flavored tobacco is made for and marketed to children. Flavors like bubblegum and fruit punch mask the natural harshness of tobacco and help kids get started. Flavored tobacco products have been removed from shops in many cities and counties throughout our state and country. Surely we want to be one of the towns that says, "Don't addict our kids." It's been 20 years since the city's existing tobacco retail license ordinance was adopted. It's time for an update. Keeping nicotine out of the hands of kids should be everybody's concern, everybody's job. We do this by working together. We do this because we care. Now I'd like to introduce Jay McCovery of Tobacco Free North Coast, and it looks like he has a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. Hi, this is Jay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. My presentation was put up here so you guys have plenty of time to look at the anatomy of an e-cigarette. My name is Jay McCubbery. I'm the current project director of a grant-funded program called Tobacco Free North Coast. We work in Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Lake counties. And I have about 30 years of experience in tobacco control in California, from San Mateo County up to Crescent City along the North Coast. It was not too long ago that we were feeling so successful that cigarettes were a thing of the past, that high schoolers said, oh no, I don't want to smoke. I mean, that's for old people, that's gross. And now that has completely changed because of the last 10 years of promotion and marketing of electronic smoking devices, which include so many flavors. So this is the anatomy of an e-cigarette, and if we could go on to the next slide, we're familiar with the look of a normal cigarette, but this is what they look like now. They come in all shapes and sizes. They're all based on the same basic design, where a liquid flows over a heated coil and atomizes that liquid into an aerosol. So it's not even a vapor. We commonly hear they're referred to as vapes. They even make vapes sewn into clothing so that you can vape through your hoodie. And unfortunately, that is not a joke. Next slide on flavors. There we go. One study documented there's over 15,000 different flavors of vapes, which is why the tobacco industry is so excited about them, because they've known for years with the introduction of menthol cigarettes that flavors are a great way to get people started. It masks the harshness of smoking regular tobacco, and with the vaping products, there is no harshness at all, just the great flavors like Cocoa Puffs and Dragon's Breath and even Unicorn Poop. Next slide, please. What's really in this stuff is nicotine, and a highly addictive chemical. And even some of the vapes that are advertised, very few of them containing nicotine have been found to have nicotine, because these products are currently very loosely regulated. Multiple studies have now shown the e-juice and the chemicals, the decomposing heating coil, introduce ultrafine particles that are inhaled deep into the lung tissue. Flavorings such as diacetyl, it creates the butter flavor from your theater popcorn. It's safe to eat, but the manufacturer of that stuff requires that you wear a gas mask. It causes irreversible lung damage, and that stuff is in vapes. Volatile organic compounds like ethylene glycol, formaldehyde, other cancer-causing chemicals, and I already mentioned the heavy metals from the coil itself that have been implicated in what we refer to in public health as E-Valley, or basically acute and irreversible lung disorders that struck many people of all ages not very long ago because of vaping. Next slide, please. Just like cigarettes, vape aerosols affect the deepest part of the lungs, the alveoli, where the oxygen exchange takes place between the bloodstream and the air. There are little air sacs down there. When those things are damaged, they do not repair themselves. And it leads to things we commonly refer to as chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or asthma. Next slide, please. So recently, of course, with COVID, research has shown that smokers are nearly double the risk of severe symptoms from experiencing COVID. Next slide. a really excellent study done by Stanford University of actual youth, young adult vapers in California showed that they are at much higher risk, 5 to 7 times the risk of increased likelihood of experiencing severe respiratory problems from COVID. And in fact, another study at UCSF showed that vaping is the major risk factor for young adult, otherwise healthy young adults, for getting bad symptoms from COVID. Next slide. So the bottom line, these are talking points from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control. E-cigarettes are not a safe alternative to smoking. They are not healthy for young people. They contain all kinds of nasty chemicals, some of them added on purpose, some of them created during the vaping process. The secondhand vape is the same chemicals as those that are inhaled into the vapor's lungs. So that is also an issue. And it is no longer questionable that people that vape also are much more likely to end up using regular cigarettes down the road. Next slide. So I wanted to just highlight a couple statistics before I move into my next little segment about health, which is about the economic health of communities that have adopted these no-flavor tobacco retail licensing policies. And there are many of them, as you can see. In California, there are over 400 million smokers still. Only 3.1% of adult smokers use electronic cigarettes. But 84% of youth electronic smokers started with a flavored product. So I would ask you, candy-flavored nicotine, who do you think the tobacco industry is targeting? So that's it for my visual presentation, and then I just wanted to highlight a couple points about the economic health of small stores and markets that have adopted these kinds of policies in California and across the nation. I actually just completed a literature review that was supported by the Tobacco Control Library with the state of California. And I looked at well over 70 studies and fact sheets about the impact of tobacco retail licensing in California. One of the studies I found showed that, I'm sorry, I should have my camera on here. There we go. So I apologize, I'm looking at my other screen, but the tax increase in California on tobacco, over $2 or $2 a pack, I think it was, in 2017 or 18. They did a study, and even that tax had absolutely no effect on the overall convenience store economy. That was a large increase in the price of tobacco. Another study looked at tobacco, looked at between 1997 and 2009. Tobacco tax rates rose significantly, and smoking rates in the nation fell 4%. But the average number of convenience stores per million people increased from 207 to 230. And I have all these references. If you're interested, I'd be happy to send them out to you. Study after study has shown that TRL policies and flavor bans do not hurt local convenience store economy, even small mom and pop businesses. For example, after 1 year, which no convenience store in unincorporated Santa Clara County could sell any flavored tobacco product, including menthol cigarettes, no retailers went out of business. I personally just completed some interviews with the code enforcement officers in the county of Alameda. down in the Bay Area. They completely banned all flavored tobacco in 2019. Over 1,000 tobacco retailers are in that jurisdiction. And the 17 stores that were more dependent on flavored tobacco sales just moved their product sales to other products like clothing and jewelry. One store that was heavily reliant on vape sales switched over to cannabis. They were able to do that. None of the stores, over 1,000, have gone out of business because of the flavor ban. This is another study in Rhode Island. 2 years following the January 2013 flavor ban and a ban on discount coupons, in Providence, Rhode Island, illegal sales to youth decreased from 12% to 2%, and youth tobacco use also decreased. A listing of cities and counties in California that have adopted tobacco retail licensing shows consistent and significant decreases in illegal sales to minors. And finally, a comprehensive literature review published in 2020, so very recent, concluded that flavor bans in the United States that include menthol products would promote smoking cessation and reduce initiation. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for in protecting our kids in our North Coast counties. And that is the end of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Okay, Karen, is there anybody else, or shall we open it up for questions from council and public?
I think that Tina, Tyler O'Shea, Tina, did you have something to add? And then I think we can turn it over to just general comments from others.
I just had a general comment that the Blue Zones Project, Mendocino County, is a proud member of the Mendocino County Tobacco Prevention Coalition, and that we support the position that is presented tonight. That's all I wanted to say. I know there are several other people here that also had a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Strong.
Hello.
Yes, Karen.
My name is Jennifer Lucky, and I have a youth that is present with us today. He is an 8th grader at the Bechtel School who would like to speak on behalf of vaping.
Oh, okay. I wanted to, if Karen had one more thing to say first, and I also tend to open it for questions from the council members before we open it up to other public comments, but we will definitely open it to public comments. Karen, did you have anything else to add?
I just noticed that Principal Henry of Laytonville High School is here, and I think that he has a really unique perspective on this, and I was hoping he could speak briefly.
And so is Mike Colvig, too.
Okay. Is it the wish of the council members to go ahead and ask some of these people that have come to testify before we ask more questions? Is it any council member want to chime in before we open it up?
No objection.
Okay. Jerry was no objection. Okay.
No objection.
Okay. Well, let's do that. And some of you, I can see if you've raised your hand, and some of you I can't. So I will just, and because of doing this electronically, only one person can speak at a time. Otherwise, we can't hear anything. So why don't we hear, Karen, why don't you call on a couple people that you know are present? Karen Osland.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Strong. I'd like to call on Tim Henry, and then maybe we could get the youth speaker.
Okay.
All right. Hello, Willits Council. My name is Tim Henry. I'm the principal at Laytonville High School, and I'm here to speak about the issue of flavored tobacco products. We don't have a lot of stores that are selling these here in Laytonville. In fact, I'm not sure if there's any, but I know that there are, plenty in Willits, and I think that one of the big issues is that is the issue around near peers and people who are buying these products for younger people. And in fact, they're bringing them into the schools and reselling them in the schools. So, there's a big markup on these. And I think that the Willits City Council, in adopting new language around flavored tobacco products, would be beneficial to our communities in general. And I think it is a good idea to update your language to, bring in the flavored tobacco issue. And I think equally important is also enforcement around this, and seeing that there's people either from public health or other agencies who are going around and checking and making sure that these stores are actually doing due diligence and not selling these products, and making sure that young people aren't buying them in the stores. Because I hear stories a lot from young people that they are accessible to young people, and I think that's a big problem. Is that going to solve the problem altogether? No. I think that there's also a lot of access online, and that the post office has some responsibility in making sure that they're not delivering this content to kids. But I know that that's probably not in your jurisdiction. So yeah, broad language would help a lot. I think that these new generation of devices are so difficult, and I think that Mike Colvig of Willits would probably agree with me that something this small and innocuous is very difficult to detect. You hear plenty of stories. I hear it right now in the middle school, especially because the teachers are a little less aware of it. At high school, we've had a few years where we've been honing in on it. I mean, these things can just disappear. They're tiny. They smell like fruit, banana, or cool melon, and all these ridiculous flavors that the kids like, and they can blow it through their masks, and it's even happening in class sometimes, let alone the bathroom and behind buildings, and it's very, 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 very difficult to detect them. And just also, James, I don't know if you've seen these yet, but these are the new generations. I confiscated this one yesterday. It's also a disposable device. And yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like a nitrous oxide container, but it's not. These things are rampant, and starting with 12 and 13-year-olds, they're definitely finding their way into the schools, and the kids. The way we actually are catching them is that they can't stop using them. They can't go through an entire school day without having to hit the NIC. And so this is that's the way that it's kind of coming to people's attention. They can't just put these things down and pick them up at the end of the day. They're bringing them with them, and they have to hit them because they're already addicted. I mean, these little devices right here are the equivalent of 2 packs of cigarettes. These pop bars, the old generation, they're already old, James. And 300 hits off of these, and there's some kids who will go through 2 of these a day if they can afford them. These will resell for $15 to $20 at school.
So Tim, because there's a lot.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's quite a few people that we do want to hear from. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So usually there's a few.
Thank you very much. And
I really appreciate
this is an important issue. Thank you for hearing this.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Mike Colvin, do you want to go next? Or Karen was saying a youth representative. Mike, go ahead. And then we'll...
Thank you. I just want to echo that we are seeing these everywhere at the high school level, and they're so insidious. And we showed you that new one that looks like a nitrous tube. We're starting to see those throughout campus, and they're so hard to find. So in reading through the ordinance that's proposed, I'm in full support. Full support.
Thank you. Is there a youth representative, Karen? Is that Marcos?
Yes, hi. I'd just like to inform you that I am in a vehicle to to get internet access, and I'm going to be turning off my camera to get better service.
Okay, thank you, but we'll hear your audio. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Marco Sanchez, and I am 13 years old. I am currently an 8th grader at Bethel Grove Middle School in Willits. I'm here to talk to you today about why selling flavored vape should be banned. In case you didn't know what a vape is, it is like smoking, but with a vape pen contains a liquid that turns into vapor when a person inhales out one end. The vape liquid contains a drug called nicotine. Nicotine is very addictive. One vaping container contains more nicotine than 2 packs of cigarettes. Nicotine is highly addictive and can harm parts of the brain and control mood and learning. The chemicals in vape juice are linked to cancer, asthma, wheezing, and shortness of breath. When you vape, you inhale aerosol into your lungs. Vaping exposes you to chemicals linked to serious lung disease. Although vaping is considered to be more safe than smoking a physical cigarette, studies are now showing that a number of problems arise from vaping, even if it doesn't contain nicotine. Health problems like inflammation, toxic metals, lung damage, poisoning, and cancer can cause agents. Organ damage and getting a weak immune system are all hidden behind the flavors such as vanilla, strawberry, bubblegum, gummy bear, blue raz, cotton candy, and many more flavors that are pointed and targeted to teens because, let's be honest, the vaping industry doesn't care about the consequences to our health. Their goal is to make money for themselves off of our expense. In my research, I have found that 8th graders who vape are 10 times more likely to eventually start smoking cigarettes. Just recently, in one article, it was stated that 14 teenagers in Illinois and Wisconsin were hospitalized for shortness of breath and difficulty breathing. Other reports stated that more than 150 teens fallen ill due to vaping, not COVID. This doesn't even include all of the United States and the rest of the world. Flavored vapes are a huge threat to our health, and with more than 15,000 flavors that target kids and teenagers, removing the flavors from these products will help our future health and well-being. In conclusion, don't vape and wear your seatbelt. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you state your name one more time?
My name is Marco Sanchez.
Thank you very much, Marcos. Okay. So I'm opening it up to anyone else. John Haschek. Yes, I see your hand.
Great. Thank you, Willits City Council, for having me today. And Marcos was a student of mine, so I'm very proud of what he just did. Amazing work. So, you know, the County of Mendocino, working with this great group of people, passed an ordinance, updated the ordinance for tobacco license, retail licenses, and it banned the flavored tobacco products. And it was a unanimous vote, and I think it was very supported by the community. I was a sponsor of that ordinance, and the only pushback we really got was from people who had businesses in the county jurisdiction that said, why aren't they doing it in the cities? No, it's not fair if Laytonville bans it and Redwood Valley bans it, but Ukiah and Willits don't. And that was really the only pushback I got from it. And so I think that, you know, the board recognized it was the right thing to do, and I think that it's the right thing for the Willits City Council to do, to make it a fairness issue and the right thing for our community's health. So thank you and for your consideration of this.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address this item on our agenda? Anyone from the public? Not hearing any additional comments. Any comments or questions from the board? I see Jerry Gonzalez's hand. Go ahead.
I for one, would be interested in moving ahead. This, when Karen first contacted me, I did
reach out at Bechtel. There was an issue.
Your sound is kind of coming in and out, Jerry. If you can situate yourself better with your microphone or something.
It might be my internet. So when this first came out, Karen contacted me. I contacted Mike Coleman. I contacted at Bechtel Grove. And they seemed in favor of it because they were seeing it at the middle school and high school. My only concerns are obviously that are limited in staff. So I definitely want staff to weigh in on it as far as how it would work for us. In the past, I know when I was police chief, I did work with Tina when she was with the health department, so I would know county support for this. That support provided. The city's in a position to put together a support-wide program. Staffing, see it as a police issue. As I think with our own ordinance, dealt with this administrative function. So I again would support it, but I do want our staff to weigh in and our city attorney. That's one.
Okay, thank you. Other council members wishing to comment?
Yes, this is Sabrina.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to thank Karen and Tina, the two principals, Supervisor Haschek and Marcos, all for your advocacy on this matter. I think it's a very important thing for us to discussing today, and I am in support of the proposal to adopt the revised tobacco retail license ordinance, and I would like to move forward.
Thank you. Other council member, Greta or Larry, do you have any comment?
Comment.
Larry, go ahead, and then Greta.
I have no comment.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Greta, then go ahead.
Thank you all for this presentation. I have a close friend here in Willits who's an adult and smokes menthol cigarettes. She'll be pretty unhappy about this, but I feel very strongly about supporting this ordinance for her health as well as for the health of the youth in our community. So thank you for this.
Okay, well, I also am very supportive, and I would welcome any comments from our city attorney or city manager or police chief. If you have any, actually, it would probably be a code enforcement. If this would have to be agendized at a future meeting for us to actually adopt it, I believe. Right now, it's not up on our agenda as an adoption item. Is that correct, Jim Lance?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Mayor.
I'm just saying, I think that right now this is just a public introduction of this idea, that it's not actually on our agenda to begin an adoption yet. But if,
yes, that's correct. That's
okay, correct. So it sounds like we have most of our council members saying they would like to agendize it. Any other comments from our staff people?
Mayor, I had one comment. I had a question.
Go ahead.
In the county ordinance, it had a number of definitions, and one was, I think, the definition of flavored tobacco products. And then in parentheses, it said that specifically excludes flavored cigarettes as defined under federal law, and I'm just curious about that, the reasoning behind that.
That's a good question. And also, since it was pointed out that some of these vaping products don't actually have tobacco in them, make sure that the wording includes the things that have nicotine or other harmful chemicals, even if they don't actually have tobacco. So maybe county council folks could make sure that our wording that we bring up is specific and comprehensive enough.
Yeah, I can check with council.
Yeah. Yes, Jerry Gonzalez.
Actually, more of a question for Supervisor Haschek. Is it your understanding that even if we and Ukiah, Fort Bragg passes and Chinese passes, is it still being sold on the reservations? I know they have smoke shops there, and I know that they are not bound by a lot of rules. that conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, if I understood the question right, is it applying to the reservations, or have we had conversations with the reservations? And I'm not sure about that because they aren't under the county purview, right? So I don't know if there's been outreach. Maybe Karen or Larry know if we've outreached to them.
Karen?
I don't think that it applies to reservations, or I don't think it would apply to Indian smoke shops.
I do. I hear the idea behind that is at least to do some outreach to them, so that we don't have all of our buyers just going to a different place to buy.
Thank you. We have several people within the Nave community that are conducting tobacco control grant programs, and they're trying to work with that. But we do run up against the fact that they're a sovereign nation, and that influence isn't possible to reach out in any kind of enforcement way. So I think our best direction there is to try to influence the elders and the people that really care about the health of the people who live on the reservation to begin to look at that. Other than that, I think we're in a position where we want to just be attractive to them about what they see as the right thing. And thank you so much for having us tonight.
Okay, I agree with that comment, that it would be really educational and advisory or whatever they are, sovereign area, so they have control over that. But I hope they care enough to follow suit. Okay, if there aren't any other comments, it does sound like we would like to have this on a future agenda fairly soon, and then our Jim Lance and maybe the county folks could make sure that we have the language clear. Is that good? Thank you so much for bringing us to us. I learned a tremendous amount. I had no idea. So I think a lot of people, especially in my age bracket, don't know what's going on, and we better learn fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So we are now going to go on. We do not have any ordinances to enact tonight. We have 2 city council minutes on our consent calendar, minutes of July 28th and minutes of August 11th. So would anyone like
consent calendar?
So Jerry Gonzalez moved consent calendar. Greta?
I'll second.
Okay. Anybody from the public wish to address comment on this item? And hearing none, we will go to a roll call vote. Kathy?
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Connie?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mayor Strong?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So item 6 is a monthly business activity report. Unless there's a question or comment about that, we will just basically informational. We are also on item 7. We're not meeting tonight as any other agency or commission, such as the Planning Commission or the successor agency. So we're now going to item 8, City Manager Reports. Brian Bender.
Thank you. So the first item, 8A, is a mutual aid agreement that it was initiated through actions of the City of Ukiah in coordination with the county officials and also Fort Bragg. This came about through several discussions, roundabout discussions we had at the city manager level about potentially extending services, resources, staff, equipment between the 4 jurisdictions in case of unique circumstances, emergencies, whatever that may be. And lo and behold, some of these communities are facing emergency situation regarding the supply of drinking water, processed water, potable water, and so that kind of initiated and moved forward this mutual aid agreement that is before the council tonight. This is kind of the first step where the city managers, myself, and the three others would like to start having greater ties among our jurisdictions and our communities. I'm kind of the newbie in the pool there, but I'm finding like-mindedness among my fellow colleagues at the city manager level. We recognize this is a good instrument to have. We just talked about it yesterday, actually, that this is kind of the first step. We may revise this in time after we get additional signatories on this document. We think it's a good opportunity. There's value here. I just want to make the council aware that, yes, it's coming at the time of the drought, water supply, water relief, and there's been talk or interest by the county to access our water supplies and have that transferred or shipped to the coast. But this document is not going to greenlight that. We're still not prepared to deliver potable water supplies. But this is basically if the council in time wants to consider that or any other exchange of aid between the signatories. And that's what we are looking at tonight.
Okay. So, as usual, I'll open it up for council members' questions, and then we'll open it to public comment. Any council questions? I'm not hearing any. I asked Brian yesterday that this is, if we go into this agreement, it doesn't obligate us to provide mutual aid. That's strictly voluntary at the time that someone asks for mutual aid. This just gives a kind of more of a structure for how that process would take place, but it doesn't mean that if, for example, in this situation, if Mendocino Village or other coastal communities asked for us to send water, we, the city council, still has control over whether we give that permission or not. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear in the language of this mutual aid agreement. It does not obligate us or any other city to provide the aid unless we choose to, and it is not endangering or reducing what we offer to our own communities.
That is correct, Mayor. Like I said, there's no obligation. It is basically if the sending jurisdiction has the resources at hand and can spare them and recognize this value, it's not going to inhibit their ability to conduct their own internal procedures and operations. The document is very explicit on how the request is made, how it's forwarded, how it's handled, and also the accountability of it. So, if it is in a time of emergency situation, typically there may be the hope of either state or federal emergency relief funding through a reimbursement process afterwards. And this document does have provisions spelling out how, the host or the receiving jurisdiction would track that aid and use that for reimbursement purposes.
Okay, thank you. Any other council member questions before yes, Greta?
Brian, I know that Little Lake Fire Department has a mutual aid agreement in effect already with the Brook Trails Fire Department. Does the city also have any pre-existing mutual aid agreements with any entities? So my question is this redundant in any way to anything we may already have on the books?
Great question. I don't know for a fact. not to this extent, and it looks like Jerry has the knowledge, as we expect.
That's a different, so there's a fire mutual aid agreement that's in there, and then there's law enforcement mutual aid mechanism. But actually, this was fairly new. Last couple of years, we've just sent aid to fellow remix cities, and they've sent stuff to us without something like this in existence. So I actually think it's a good thing, because I think we sent some public works people over to Lakeport a while back. Ukiah has sent some folks in the past, and even though the fire people are the experts at this and they have the master fire, this is not really an overlap. And I think in the new order of fire season, it's the last year round, and other emergencies that are coming up, provides us an agreement that it's memorialized already, so that when we seek enforcement, know what we can provide. And it's always the way mutual aid agreements work. You don't give if you don't have, and even then you don't stress your resources. You know, we can't give it or don't have the people, especially with things like COVID. Good example. But I think
those are good comments and a good explanation of the difference between these mutual aid agreements. One of the things that the city manager group later this month, we got postponed to the beginning of October, but our bi-monthly dialogue that we have with our counterparts in Lake County, we may want to extend this out to them as well, some later version as well, because they're in similar situations, similar size. They may have, needs that we can respond to, and equally, if we have a situation where we need resources, it's good for all. And I think more importantly, it's establishing a new level of coordination between the four jurisdictions within the county, as well as with county officials. So, start of great things I would put forward.
Okay. Any comments from the public on this item? And are we actually prepared to move approval of this as it is presented to us at this point? If I'm not hearing any other comments. Is this an action item, Brian?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So would anyone like to make a motion?
Alice would like to move staff recommendation.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone want to be the seconder? I will second the motion. Since we didn't have anybody else, I just wanted to make sure if you have any concerns about it, that you bring those to our attention before we call for the vote. So if anyone is holding back.
This is Sabrina. I'll be happy to chime in.
Okay.
I'm just going to be frank with the discussions I've had with my constituents, and I haven't received any feedback in support of this mutual aid agreement, primarily because it comes at a time when the city potentially is being asked to give up some water. I've heard the pros and the cons, and I've been struggling with what to do, and it's not really, I feel like this isn't really a matter of like, what do I want? We represent the voice of the community, and unfortunately, thus far, I haven't heard from the community that this is something that they want, and all I've heard is what I don't want. Despite how I may or may not feel, I would find it difficult to vote in favor of something that I've only heard a no from my constituents.
Thank you for articulating that. Other council members wish to throw in a concern or opinion? Just technically, I should ask, if we have a motion on the floor we take a vote. If it doesn't pass, can it come back at a future time? And is there some restriction on that?
No, he can come back.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I believe that, yeah. Okay. So I think we're ready for a roll call vote. Kathy?
Yes. Councilmembers Gonzalez?
Yes.
Connie?
Yes.
Stransky?
Oh.
Rodriguez?
No.
Mayor Strong?
Yes. So, all right, so it passes 3-2, and I think it's just important to note that there are some, serious reservations about the potential to feel coerced into providing mutual aid that might not benefit the city. So I think that's well noted here, and Ryan will pay attention to that. Okay, moving on.
And I just
Jerry.
Today I was not voting to give water up.
No.
Here. I still think that this document is important when it comes to other things, especially staff and other things. That's what they're sharing.
I can't hear.
They need staff or other resources, and maybe not involving water as things progress early into this Delta. I'm looking at it from that standpoint as well as multiple things.
Yeah, Jerry, your sound is really not coming through very well. But I think,
is it better now with the video down?
I think that's better.
I just wanted to point out that it wasn't about water today for me. It's about being able to share resources. The water thing needs to come back, and I want to hear from my constituents how they feel. That's separate from mine.
Okay, that was clarification. And I think that the fact that it's coming up in the context or in the period that this has been the hot issue that is coloring our worries about it. But there are also some other mutual aid things that could come up with, a piece of equipment. If one of ours fails and somebody has one that can loan to us, or staff people for a particular crunch that one of the other jurisdictions is having or that we're having. So, I think that's clarification. Yes, Greta, go ahead.
I also wanted to say that I did not vote to sell water or give water away. I voted because right now Willits isn't even at the table of these discussions. So in order for us to have any interaction with the city and have a say in the decisions that are made, we need to join this mutual aid agreement. That's why I voted.
Thank you.
Actually, that is an exceptional point there, because with the request for supply of water, which hasn't been truly formalized to the City Council for consideration, this does create a path for either the coastal communities through the county or the county taking the lead to approach the council and put a request that you can formally consider and act on. So good points there. And I guess just on a closing note, one of the things I'm going to be looking to do is see if I can get an agreement with South Lake Tahoe, see if they need help in January or February. So, see if we can exchange managers. So,
great.
You're funny.
See if they can throw in a couple lift tickets. I don't mind,
Okay. So now we have a couple of other items under the city manager's report. So, Brian, continue.
Well, going from, the spirit of coordination and cooperation among the jurisdictions and the county and potentially outside of our region, news came to us recently about this proposal of using the old railroad right-of-way and some of the existing line for the transportation of Western coal to port cities or port in California. We don't know a whole lot about this, and I just wanted to give this opportunity to brief the council. There was a lot of chatter among the city managers because it would all impact us one way or the other. It could damage or jeopardize the Great Redwoods Trail, the complete system, not just what's happening here in Willits. So there may be an item coming back before the council where staff would be asking the council to join in on a remonstrance of this proposal, some form of resolution or a letter. So, in preliminary, advising you of the situation and potentially asking for support and against this, because it doesn't make any sense on many fronts. Financially, the logistics front, the impact on the environment, impact on communities. We don't know what's going on. There's some movement behind, very closed doors and secretive dark rooms of why this was put forward recently, where an initiative out of an attorney in Chicago submitted paperwork to essentially acknowledging or notifying the feds, the federal transportation system, that there's an interest to reopen this line for rail operations. So once again, in spirit of cooperation among our colleagues and jurisdictions, this might be something we all want to team up on, because it's not in our best interest.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from the council members about this item? Using the rail line for shipping coal. Okay, I agree with Brian. This is definitely not in our best interest, and we're not alone. I think everybody on the whole coastal line and maybe the entire Bay Area will line up against this. I was covered by Jared Huffman in his recent he had a town hall kind of meeting, and and Mike McGuire and Jim Wood all agreed that this would be a really terrible idea. So I think that will be coming up as a resolution in the near future. Any comments from the council or the public? Hearing none, we will move to any other verbal reports?
I just want to give a brief update on the city managers today. We had our bi-weekly session with Dr. Corin. Things have seemed to stabilize with this most recent surge. The case numbers are starting to trail off. The dynamic here that approximately 64% of eligible individuals in Mendocino County have been vaccinated. That's one of the higher numbers for a rural area or a rural county within the state. It's still impacting the local hospitals and clinics. ICU units are pretty occupied, and nursing and medical staff are really stretched their resources in trying to accommodate this recent surge. But right now, Dr. Corin is not putting forward or proposing any new orders or mandatory requirements to prevent the spread. He's looking at a proposal that he wants to present to the Board of Supervisors that would relate to improved signage and information conveyed to clients, customers at certain establishments, and also the management of those facilities to try to encourage the benefits of mask wearing, if it's in that setting, vaccination, testing. So those are some of the good news. It was one of the first good news sessions we had with Dr. Corin in a couple of weeks. I just want to relay that back to the council and the general public.
I have a couple of good friends who are teachers in the Ukiah system, and there's been quite a few cases among the school kids. And so I hope that our school districts are looking really closely at whether this in-person systems are adequate and how well that's going. I certainly don't want our kids to be, or adults, to be exposed unnecessarily. So.
Other than that, that's what I have for the council.
Okay, any other questions of Brian? I gather there's some forward movement on finance personnel issue. But
we had a couple of rounds of interviews and some further discussion with a preferred candidate. We will be putting together an employment offer to this individual. We believe she would be a good fit, bring a wealth of experience and expertise to our situation here. We desperately need a finance director, but we think this is the right person. It's not a person. It is the right person. It's been tough to recruit. That was made very obvious in the comments that Joe Bryden at Bob Murray and Associates put forward. But we believe that this individual would be a good team member for us. So hopefully we can seal the deal and bring this person to the organization.
Okay. All right. If there aren't any other questions of our city manager, we're going to our department recommendations item. And the first of those, 9A, adopt resolution approving the memorandum of understanding between City of Willits and the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, Local 1245. And this would be a 3-year agreement. And I believe Karen Stevenson is going to present this. So go ahead, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor Strong, council members. I first want to start off by saying on behalf of our city manager, Brian, the Willits Police Officer Association, and IBEW Local 1245, I want to thank the entire negotiations committee for bringing their expertise and their experience to the table and engaging in a fruitful and constructive, open exchanges throughout the negotiations. The continuous engagement, high quality of thoughtful and respectful debate allows us to come to what Brian and I believe are MOUs that are probably the best that we've negotiated in a very long time. I want to give special thanks to Police Chief Liz Araga, Public Works Director Scott Herman, and Public Works Superintendent Kevin O'Shea for their leadership and support. For POA President Christopher Karsmarki and IBW Local 1245 Business Representative J.B. Moore, thank you for playing a significant role in ensuring we worked collaboratively and strategically to ensure the value our employees bring to the city was recognized and rewarded. From my perspective, these MOUs are a major tool to assist the city in closing the gaps that we've faced for numerous years in regards to recruitment and retention. And I also want to thank the council for providing a clear framework for which to negotiate on behalf of our community and the public that we serve. And I believe you've been presented in these two MOUs is exactly what you were seeking. By adopting these MOUs, the council is making a commitment to staff, thereby ensuring exemplary delivery of service to our community. Some of the highlights for the IBEW Memorandum of Agreement, or MOU, is Local 1245 leadership and steward leave time, which we don't necessarily anticipate to be used often because we are such a small city, but it does give them the ability to utilize our folks when need to support the union, and the union will reimburse the city for all compensation paid to the employee. So it is a win-win situation. A 5% salary increase for the first year, effective January 1st, because their contract does go from January to December. And then a 3% cost of living increase, which begins with the fiscal year, July 1st, 2022, and July 1st, 2023. We also are negotiated a 5% salary increase retroactive to July 1st, 2021 for plant operators in water and wastewater for taking on additional duties due to the loss of the utility superintendent position. We also are creating a public works maintenance foreman position and changes to the criteria for the Public Works Maintenance 2 and 3 and construction specialist positions, making it more attractive for our employees to expand on their education and become more valued, not only for the city, but for the business. A 2.5% increase above regular pay for a limited number of plant operators who obtain various certifications and perform the actual work at the plants, which obviously save us money from outsourcing. We also made a change to our longevity pay, which will now be 5, 10, and 15 years. So once an employee hits 5 years, they will receive $750 per year. Once they hit 10 years, they will get $1,500 per year. And upon the 15th anniversary, they will receive $3,000 per year. And this goes a long way when it comes to retention. We do have a lot of people that like to come to the city of Willits and they gain the experience and they move on. And we'd really like for them to stay and utilize the experience they've gathered for the benefit of our community. We also are increasing the uniform to 5 shirts and 5 pair of pants per fiscal year, with the reimbursement up to $350 for the pants. As you can tell, they're working in the plant, they go through these quite fast. We've also made some changes to our standby pay. We're going to go from 2 hours to 3 hours of straight time pay, and we're going to lower the call-out pay from 3 hours to 2 hours. It is another retention tool because, although many of our folks do get called out while they're on standby duty, it's money up front, which, not a lot of cities are doing, and again, we want to keep our folks here. And the staff also recommends council authorize city manager to make small administrative, non-monetary changes to the MOU if necessary to fulfill the intention of the MOU. And as per previous practice, all of their employees will receive the same benefits, same salary increases, and the one-time distribution that IBEW gets. This will be used for our unrepresented employees. And then you have the 2 resolutions, one for IBEW and one for the unrepresented. And if I may, I just go right into the MOU for the POA. Go ahead. The one update that I wanted to correct is in number 2. It says 2.5% shift differential for the swing shift. We actually further negotiated that a swing shift will start at 12 p.m. and so you can have 12 to 12, you can have 3 to 3, 5 to 5. So we've given ourselves a little bit more latitude and flexibility depending on staff needs. They also will get a 5% salary increase the first year and a 3% cost of living in years 2 and 3 of the MOU. And their increase will be retroactive to 7/1, which is the beginning of their normal MOU time period. We have increased special assignments to be compensated at 5% salary differential. Many of these are not PERSable, but it's an incentive for officers to become more valuable to the city and saves us cost in the long run from having to outsource. And as of now, the special assignments are fire investigator for arson, a range master, our canine officer, vehicle maintenance, defensive tactics, and active shooter. We have changed our standby duty to 2 hours of base rate per day. What they're currently getting is $1.25, flat $1.25 per hour, and that's not very attractive for people to change their lives and be prepared to, stay in the vicinity. Employee certified by the chief of police or his or her designee as meeting minimal standards for conversing in Spanish. We have raised it from one employee to any employee that can meet the demand, and the bilingual pay will go from $75 a month to $150 a month. Unit employees may elect to participate in the annual voluntary physical abilities test during the month of June each year. Upon successful completion, they will receive $750 non-pensionable stipend. Testing shall be done on one day and conducted by the chief of police. And you will see that it's not an easy test to pass. We're looking at following the CHP test, which is 24 hours in 24 push-ups in 1 minute, 31 sit-ups in 1 minute, 300-meter run, which is 70 seconds, or a 1.5-mile run, which needs to be done in 13 minutes and 35 seconds. We have also carried over the longevity pay with the same as IBEW, which will be 5, 10, and 15 years with a payout of $750, $1,500, and $3,000 per year once they've hit that anniversary date. I do recommend that we follow and adopt these both MOUs. It was a very pleasant experience. We all looked to what are the pros and what are the cons, give a little, and both of these contracts were ratified by their respective unions, and again, I want to thank all of you for participating, and we look forward to implementing the changes. Are there any questions that anyone has?
Thank you very much, Karen. Any questions from council members? I will just comment that we've had a couple closed sessions where we went over almost all of these things that Karen just described, kind of almost sentence by sentence, and it's been very satisfying to have this give and take and be able to meet some of the concerns that our staff have had about various benefits and pay and so forth, and to be able to work it out very collaboratively. And so the council is not brand new to all of these details that Karen just described. So any other any comments from the public? Not seeing or hearing any. Any further comment from you, Brian? Are we ready to move along?
No, I think Karen did an excellent job of summing it up, and as you pointed out, Madge, the council has been deep within these MOUs, looking at the details with the assistance of Patrick Clark. This is what you're looking at is the final document weaved together with all the components that we looked at, not in isolation, but as one document. It had went through the bargaining units review as well. I think it's time for the council to act if you so choose. If not, then we'll give us further instructions.
Okay. All right. Did I hear Larry wanting to speak? Larry, do you have a comment?
Action.
No? Sabrina?
I think if Jerry doesn't have a clarifying question. Jerry, is your clarifying question?
No, I was just coming.
Okay, I didn't want to cut you off if you have a question. Sounds like Jerry made a motion, and I'll second the motion to approve the resolution for item.
Actually, we did not hear what Jerry.
I think we have to have two different motions. That's what happened.
Yes, that's correct. You should have two separate motions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the motion and second that's on the table right now is for the IBEW Memorandum of Understanding. So if there are no further comments from the public on that item, 9A, we will have a motion and a second. I think we do the roll call.
Yes, I'd just like to clarify, we have a motion on 9A for 2 resolutions. Moved by Gonzalez, seconded by Rodriguez.
Correct.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez. Connie.
Yes.
Stransky.
Yes.
Strong. Excuse me. Mayor Strong.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Sorry, I got out of order.
It's okay. Took me by surprise.
Me too.
Okay. Since we discussed both of these items, I think I'm ready to accept a motion and a second on item 9B with the POA Memorandum of Understanding and Resolution.
I will so move.
Moved by Sabrina.
I'll second.
Okay. Seconded by Jerry. And if there are no comments, we are going to go to a roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Connie.
Yes.
Stransky.
No.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mayor Strong.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was a 4-1 vote on that item. Okay. We do not have monthly reports this time. It would be at the second meeting. And by the way, just in case anyone missed it, our second meeting, instead of being the 4th Wednesday, will be the 5th Wednesday this time. So that's going to be September 29th. And City Council announcements and reports. This is for various agencies that we represent or attend. And anybody want to make a report? Yes, Greta.
I attended a museum advisory board meeting today as the representative for the city council. We did not have a quorum once again, so we did not have our regular meeting, but we did have an informal discussion. Supervisor Haschek was present, and we were notified by the director of Museum and Library Services for the county that the county has now separated parks from the Museum and Library Division. This is kind of good news, but it's also kind of bad news because now the GSA is talking about separating the funding for parks and taking some away from the museum and library. Supervisor Haschek said it was the first he'd heard of that, and he acknowledged the museum and library cannot afford any cuts. He said that he will keep a close eye on it and do what he can to make sure that the budget for the museum and library remains whole. He will keep me in the loop. If I hear of anything, I will alert the Willits community because I know how strongly we support our library and museum. The museum is also very excited to announce they have a new exhibit starting September 18th. It's an exhibit of Judy Berry and her life. Judy was a controversial figure in our community associated with the timber wars. She was beloved and hated equally, I think, by both sides of the community. It should be an incredibly educational exhibit. It will range over 6 weeks, and they have a suite of programs that the community is invited to attend. All events will be outdoors in the courtyard. And I think they've really done an exceptional job on this, and it should create some fascinating discussion in our community. Yeah, it's really exciting. So proud of them. I don't think there's anything else to report. Thank you.
So, Greta, I had a question. When the county put parks, library, and museum all in one department, there was one head of that whole department. Is there going to be a separate administrator for library and museum?
That's a good question. I'm not sure who will be handling the parks. Deborah, who is the supervisor now who was all three of those, said that what's nice about this is basically she won't be doing overtime anymore. She really was doing too many jobs in one role. So I'm not sure what parks got rolled into or who's going to be heading that. So good question, though. I'll see if I can get an answer for you next time.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Jerry, how about you? Okay. Sabrina?
Nothing new from MTA, but I do have a question for the council in regards to the arts committee that Greta and I are serving on. Just wanting some clarification from council about what the expectation is from our committee, what outcome you expect. I think that in conversations with Brian and Greta, it's my understanding that our time might be best focusing on a project that's been presented to us rather than a broader vision around art and a potential structuring of an ordinance or a process for all art in the community. Maybe Brian could speak to this a little bit.
Gladly. I think it was about a week and a half ago, the ad hoc committee had their second meeting. It was well attended. They're still moving forward with that original concept that was presented to the council, the pinwheels at the Highway 20 part or area. But the group is starting to expand their thoughts and interests to other areas in the city, other art installation in other public areas. I had this conversation with Sabrina and with Greta, and as they were the two nominated council members to participate in this committee. I think we can take the training wheels off the committee and let them move forward. I can still attend and represent your interests and just make sure there is a liaison with staff on projects. It was made very clear to the committee that right now, without any standing policy or procedures on installation of art in the public realm, all requests would have to come to the council for consideration and approval. I think right now this committee, the committee that is formed, they're still trying to figure out if it's, they're looking, like Sabrina said, if they're putting together a policy that would be citywide, or just looking really focused on what could potentially happen at Highway 20. So I think what we can do is let that group, they have a meeting coming up in September. Unfortunately, I cannot attend because I would be at the League of Cities conference. But I can reach out to Gary Martin to make sure there's some coordination and I'm informed of what's happening. But I can report back to the council and as they proceed through their process and ultimately decide how the council wants to, look at a policy or just look at case by case. And that's where we're at.
Okay. Greta?
And I just wanted to piggyback on this discussion. I actually didn't make it to that meeting, and I frankly am feeling overextended pretty severely. I'm wondering, especially as the discussion at those ad hoc meetings has gotten broader in range, if it's going to be a much larger conversation, I feel like maybe that group and public art in particular would be better served by a council member who could give it more time and consideration. So if anybody else would like to step into that ad hoc group instead of me, I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay. Is there any volunteer who would want to step into that role? If not, we'll just put that in our thinking caps and revisit it at a later time. Greta.
So I just want to say that I'm not sure that I can commit to attending those meetings on a regular basis. So I may continue to serve, but I may not be able to make it, frankly.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you want to deputize me to attend the meetings and report back to the council, I'm more than willing. Just I can't make that September meeting.
Yeah. Well, I think if both Brian and Sabrina are, in general, going to be able to attend those meetings, that we're well represented by having those two I'm sorry, Brian will miss that one, but I know Sabrina will communicate to us what comes up there. And my comment is that I think case by case is okay, especially in that we don't have funding to like gear up for a major program. So any installations or proposals that come up are going to pretty much have to provide their own funding or grants or whatever. But I love the idea of Willits being able to encourage and be a home for more public artwork. And so I do hope that this committee keeps all avenues open and seeks that kind of thing. If Gary Martin could come up, or someone could come up with some grant funding for this kind of thing, it would be fabulous. Oh, I also wanted to ask, at least one friend of mine who has been involved for a long time with the murals projects, and she and we did the first step of a murals project many years ago, and there was a phase 2 and a phase 3 that were envisioned at that time. She would love to get involved, and I'm just wondering, is that committee open to another public member who has experience and interest in this? I would recommend.
If I could respond.
I would.
Go ahead, Sabrina.
Go ahead, Sabrina.
Yes, all members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting. I know that myself and Greta, we both felt badly. I missed the last meeting, even though I reminded everybody. I had a work emergency that morning because the meeting does take place during our work day. We're both business owners, so it can sometimes be a little challenging. I will be at the September meeting, but there are times that sometimes your first profession does have to take precedent. But in general, I will be at the meetings. I think what I'm really asking for council is that there's an understanding that you would be comfortable with us narrowing the scope of what this ad hoc committee would achieve. And it is my hope that we would achieve some framework for maybe the Highway 20 project, an idea of what we might want to do in the course of the next 1 to 2 years. And if we have more than that to present to you, then great. But beyond that scope, I don't feel like I could commit to more at this time either, just because our plates are very, very full. COVID has made everything a lot harder. And I want to make sure I do a good job as a city council member, but also being mindful that there are only 24 hours in a day.
Okay. Well, I think an ad hoc committee is not a permanent standing committee anyway. So, if you can hang in there for like a 1 to 2 year scope of what we might be able to look at in a 1 to 2 year time frame, I think that's very sufficient for now. And Brian, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, no, I think I just want to, I guess I'm going to echo what Sabrina said, that, these are open meetings. And like I said, the second meeting, which was a week and a half ago, was well attended. It was additional members were there. So I think it's almost kind of like a drop-in basketball game on the Saturday courts or something. If you got an interest, let's come in, throw the ball around, kick the ideas. Art is all-inclusive, and I think ultimately that's the message that we need to convey to the public.
Great. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. If there's any other council members, I just want to report briefly on the two agencies I'm part of. One of them is EDFC, the Economic Development and Financing Corporation. They will be meeting tomorrow afternoon at 2. And I know that there's a new loan coming up, and there's quite a bit going on with it's called SMED, which is the Sonoma Mendocino Economic Development, something, another D. So I will be attending that meeting and report later. On the Solid Waste Management Authority, which is the countywide joint powers of the 4 cities and the county on issues of primarily household hazardous waste and all of that. We are in a transition now. The general manager submitted her resignation, and that will become effective October 8th. And another member, I'm chair of the committee and or the board. Another member and I are an ad hoc to work with the outgoing general manager to figure out how we're going to fill her shoes and keep the agency afloat with very limited funds at the moment. And I know that one of the things in the offing, which will probably be coming up to our meeting a week from now, is a potential increase in the tipping fees for the haulers in order to adequately fund the Solid Waste Management Authority going forward. And it'll take, so we will need to put that on a probably next agenda, because whatever all the member jurisdictions decide has to be noticed and agendized and all of that, and then it has to become effective in time for the haulers to reflect that increased cost in their contracts with all of the all of their jurisdictions. In our case, Solid Waste of Willits would want to reflect that additional tipping fee if we go through with approving it. So that'll be probably on our next agenda. I know we're going to probably have a full agenda, but it's important. And we're meanwhile trying to figure out how to do an interim management of the authority. It's a very, very small staff. There's 3 guys in the plant, or the actual day-to-day operations, and the general manager and an office assistant. So the general manager position is going to be important. So with that, I'm moving on to item 12, which is good and welfare. Any council members have any good and welfare items?
We do have the grand opening for the firehouse.
Oh, absolutely. Woo. I have too much on my plate. I keep forgetting things. Yes.
Greta with her hand up, though.
Yeah, Greta, go ahead.
I actually wanted to go back to council announcements, communications, recommendations. Brian, you mentioned earlier this evening that things were going really well in your meetings with the other city managers, and that you felt you were creating some good working relationships there. And it just made me think, during the discussion about the tobacco retailing licenses, it would be really fantastic if there was some regular communication between City Council, Willits City Council, with some of the other governing bodies that surround us. For instance, some of the tribal leaders, the Brook Trails Board, the Pine Mountain group. Even the school district, I just wonder sometimes, it seems like so many of us are working on islands, and it might be better if we attempted to have some regular lines of communication. And I don't know if that's doable or if it's something that's been done in the past, but it's just something that's been percolating in my mind, and I wonder if that's something that we can work on, or if any of the other council members think that there would be a value to that.
Point noted. I think one of the expectations that the council laid out to me when I started was to coordinate, communicate, start dialogues. So doing a pretty good job with the 4 jurisdictions, 4 cities, the 4 city managers. Like I said, we reach out to Lee County. This Friday I have a session with Brook Trails. That's like a monthly standing appointment where we converse with Tamara up there. I think we have a good relationship, both between myself and Tamara on management issues and just logistics, but I definitely know that crews share resources among themselves as well. The other entities you identified, maybe, being a new person here, maybe I don't have the contacts to, cold call, go knock on a door, but we can look into it and see what's happening. I do know I want to reach out to the County Board of Supervisors. That's definitely an avenue I need to refine and work on. I think that would be a benefit to the community and the council. So, if you got some leads or contacts, point them my way and see what we can do.
Thank you. And I wasn't just meaning to pile it on your shoulders. I mean, I think the council should also play a role in building relationships for the strength of the city and its position with its neighbors. So I certainly wasn't meaning it's all on you, Brian. We're here to support you.
That's my job. But that's what I
We appreciate that.
All right. Well, let's see what we can do. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I always, when I first ran for city council, I had envisioned the idea that at least one member of the Brook Trails board might attend our meetings, and one of us might attend their meetings on a fairly regular basis, at least once a month. And that hasn't happened, and it seems like among, and many of the other agencies that you're mentioning, Greta, are also, very tied in with the Willits community and us with them. Everybody has so much on their plate that it's hard to envision how that could, how we could add some kind of joint meetings, like a once a year convention of all of us. But it's very true that I do feel like we sort of all operate somewhat in isolation, and it would be really good to keep more lines of communication and collaboration, and so that we don't reinvent the wheel and we know what each of us is doing. I haven't volunteered to go to the Brook Trails meetings, and they haven't volunteered to come to ours, but that's just one example. I think it would really be good to, and not put it entirely on Brian's shoulders. I think he's doing a fabulous job of trying to keep communicating with all of these different entities, but it's a lot. Yeah. So I guess that's a good start to that conversation, but not the end of it.
Okay, Jerry.
Yes, Jerry.
Honestly, I did try to attend Brook Trails meetings at some point, and then I found that some other stuff going on, and then COVID hit, and I'll be honest with you, that kind of killed my meeting because I also kind of felt the same thing, man, that I want us to be, I wanted that open line of communication, especially
So, we can always implement the model that they use in Maine. There's only one meeting a year, and everyone just comes together, and you hash out, and you do your budget, you do your policies, you do your coordination, and you're done. Then it's back, hunting moose and playing hockey.
Sounds appealing. Sabrina?
This is Sabrina. I was just thinking, as an alumni of the Leadership Mendocino, they have demonstrated that they've been able to pull leaders from different areas together and put together some really incredible events. And I could definitely see Leadership Mendocino pulling together something once a year that might bring together what Greta's talking about. And I do think that even though we don't formally all meet with these other groups, I'm sure there's many of us that do. I read every agenda for the Willits Unified School Board. Their meetings are at the same time as ours, so it can be hard to get in at the right time, and their meetings are a little bit earlier, but I read their postings. I keep in touch with the tribal, as I'm sure many of you have situations where you have some contacts. But rather than thinking of this as a Brian project or otherwise, maybe Leadership Mendocino might be a good opportunity there.
I think that's a great idea. Do you want to talk to their director about that idea? Would you do that, Sabrina?
Yeah, Holly Madrigal's in charge right now, and so she would know exactly what we're looking for since she's served on the Willits City Council before.
Yeah, she would be really good at bringing us together once a year. That would be great. Okay, and it was brought to my attention that we should definitely announce that this coming September 11th, which is right around the corner, Saturday, is the grand opening of the new firehouse. And it's also a commemoration of the 9/11 first responders and those who died in that catastrophe. And I think it starts at 9 o'clock. There's going to be tours. It just sounds like it'll be a wonderful celebration of our new firehouse. And so hope everybody can attend that. I think we are now ready to go into closed session. And it is 8:15 right now. Let's just have 5 minutes and convene in our closed session at 8:20 with the number that everybody should have for that closed session. Not everybody, but the council members. Okay, and if there is anything that comes out of that, we will announce.